as independent filmmakers, we don't always have access. And so my question to you, Jay, is there a distinction? How does the law view journalists? What makes a journalist?
I recognize that as the lawyer, my job here is to be the voice of doom, destruction, and despair. But actually,
we're documentary filmmakers, we love that.
But actually, when lawyers and filmmakers work together in a healthy relationship, a lawyer can be a voice of hope, of creative problem solving, and actually expediting the release and distribution of a film. Your question, though, is about whether there's a difference between filmmakers and journalists, or whether filmmakers can be journalists, and my answer is, of course, they can be. I mean, within the field of journalism, there are widely divergent models of doing journalism. Take 60 Minutes on the one hand. No one, I think, would argue that its producers are not journalists. And take BuzzFeed on the other. I pick on those two because they're both clients of mine. Most people would not argue that the folks who produce content, whether written or video, for BuzzFeed are not journalists. There are some extremists who might nibble around the edges on that, but most reasonable folks would say, of course they're journalists in both camps. They just have very different models for the product they produce, and the legal protections that, at least in the United States especially, protect journalists would apply equally to them. But that's also true of filmmakers. It's just a different model of presenting news to the public. Fiction is one thing. Some films are fiction, and that is not generally thought to be news, although sometimes fictionalized, that is, in the old-fashioned word, docudramas, may have a news component to them. But in my view, and I think generally in the law's view, anyone who is in the business, quotation marks around business, of presenting information on public events or affairs to the public is a journalist.
Traditionally, journalism did not have a point of view, or was not supposed to have a point of view, right? And that's evolving quite a bit for a number of reasons. We have a lot of nonprofit now news organizations who are very esteemed and established, who are trying to get impact, ProPublica, CIR. They say our goal is to have impact. That's a twist on what journalism used to be, which was, we don't care, we're just telling the facts.
Can I interrupt to just challenge that particular premise?
Yeah.
Because back in the bad old days, when news was printed on newspaper, which some of you are too young to remember, but I'm old enough to remember, I don't actually think that was true. Journalism included having a point of view. Reporting was supposed to be, as they said in the old days, just the facts, ma'am. But there was this thing called the op-ed page in the newspapers, and heaven forbid, even on television news broadcasts, there was an era when every evening news program had the opinion segment in it. And journalism, I think, has always included recognition of and a place for and legal protections for a point of view. The distinction is between reporting and editorializing.
Right. Now, though, we do have a drive for specific impact, you know, and that's really driven by funding, to be totally honest.
And that's a big change.
And it's a big shift to say, you know, we are going to help exonerate somebody, or we are going to, you know, take a close look at the criminal justice system and make change. We are going to impact Congress and decisions. So that's, you know, it's evolving.